I'm Dr. Rich Hansen, founder of the Leadership Coaching Network, where our mission is to empower African leaders as agents of transformation for people, organizations, and society. In this excerpt from our LCN conference held in February 2024 in Addis Ababa, Jemma Fifield, who is on the staff of Bingham Academy, talks about how she uses coaching to transform student culture.
Good morning, everybody. I feel so privileged to be here with you guys today. Thank you so much for inviting me. My role at Bingham Academy is I'm the deputy principal. And one of my key roles is student discipline. So when we have a student who is choosing poor behaviour, what we call being a poor behaviour for learning, it's kind of my job to deal with that student and try and get them back into the classroom, back into a frame of mind where they can learn, and back into a relationship with their teachers and their fellow students. We noticed when we came out of COVID, like most schools globally, that a lot of our students had lost a lot of their social skills. They've been on their own for a long time, and they're not always aware, even before COVID, students are not always aware of the impact that their choices have on people around them. I do want to say that, on the whole, I've worked with more than 20 schools in Asia and Africa and in Europe. And Bingham students are among the most compliant and well-behaved students I've ever encountered, but still, we need to help them when they're making bad choices. What I realised was that my coaching training had actually set me up really well to have some great conversations with these students. And so I just want to talk you through the process of what happens when I encounter a student who would typically have been punished, and what our process is at Bingham at the moment. So a student might be sent out of class for any number of disruptive behaviours, throwing the pencil case, shouting out too much, anything that actually disrupts the learning environment from the classroom. We ask teachers to take those students out of the classroom so that they can continue to minister to the students that are paying attention. And I can try and minister to the student that was having the problem that day. And the process we used is based on restorative justice or restorative practice, which some of you might have known about in the past. But it starts with the student entering my office, usually very red-faced, very agitated, sometimes crying, and I use coaching questions. Gosh, it looks like you've had a bad morning. Can you tell me what happened? And at that point, usually a whole tidal wave of emotion, and it wasn't my fault, and the teacher doesn't like me, and Matthew made me do it, and nobody understands me, all comes spilling out, and I just listen. To begin with, I just listen and I let them release that pressure. It's like opening a little valve, let the pressure come out, and I end that part of our conversation by saying, goodness, that sounds really hard. And at that point, they sometimes need to go and have a snack or a walk and kind of reset their mind, because at this point, they still haven't really reflected yet on what it is that the problem was. So I give them a walk or a snack or a glass of water, and then we come back and we make a real start on the coaching. And I use a process that's entitled the acronym WARM, W-A-R-M. And the first thing I say is, what were you thinking? What were you thinking when this happened? And I just listen. And usually they're able to identify that they were having an emotional reaction to something, or the teacher, they felt that something was unfair, or that a friend was doing something unfair. And they can usually tell me, this is how I was thinking at that time. But we're now half an hour away from that incident, and then I say, so What are you thinking now? And 9.5 times out of 10, they're able, because they've had a release of pressure, because the environment isn't threatening, they're able to tell me, you know what, I know I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have thrown my pencil at Jonathan. I shouldn't have spoken to my teacher like that. And for 9.5 out of 10 incidents, this is enough for the student to have been given the opportunity to release the pressure, to be heard, and then to be asked, what happened? What were you thinking? What are you thinking now? That's typically enough for most instances for that kid to be like, oh man, I should not have done that. I shouldn't have done that. And then we ask the question, the A, who is affected? And because they've had this time to release the pressure, they're not feeling defensive anymore. They're able to say, oh man, you know, Matthew, he got a bump on the head when my pencil case hit him, and so I need to make that relationship right. There's something broken there. Or my teacher probably felt really disrespected. I didn't mean to disrespect my teacher. I'm like, yeah, I know that. I know that you didn't, but your behaviour has a consequence. So what were the consequences of that behaviour? Oh, my teacher feels disrespected. So that's the A. So W, what happened? What were you thinking at the time? What are you thinking now? A, who is affected? Sometimes it's bigger than a relationship between a student and a teacher. Sometimes the whole class was interrupted. Sometimes property was broken. Sometimes physical pain was caused. And then we have to look at consequence. That's not really coaching. We'll come back to that. So W, what happened? What were you thinking? What are you thinking now? A, who is affected? R, what needs to be repaired? What can you repair? How are you going to repair it? Again, 9.5 times out of 10 as we've gone through this process, because the child has been heard, because they've been able to reflect themselves. It isn't me saying, you did this, you did it because you were a naughty child and you're very rude, and now you need to go and apologise. Because because of coaching, it draws out of them what the problem was. 9.5 times out of 10, by the time I get to the repair section, they already know what they want to do. Can I write a letter to my teacher and explain that I'm sorry, that I didn't mean to disrespect them, I just was really upset? Of course you can. And we actually coach an apology structure as well, and it's a structure that I learned from Lead Beyond, Stedman Harrison's structure of how to apologise really well to someone. And I will coach that apology, and if they want me to, I'll go with them and just be like moral support while they make their apology. So W, what happened? What were you thinking? What are you thinking now? A, who is affected? R, what needs to be repaired and how can we repair it? M, how should we move forward? How can we make sure this isn't going to happen again? What do you need to make sure that as you go back into your classroom and you continue about your day, what do you need to make sure that you don't get yourself in this situation again? And this is the point where we change the culture. This is the point where the student can help identify, I need to not sit next to my friend because we're always talking. Okay, so how can you change that? I need someone to check in with me at the end of the day to make sure I've written my homework down because I keep forgetting it and my teachers are getting cross with me. Oh, okay, so who could help you with that? So just by asking the coaching questions, not me giving any input or any information, not assuming any intent or motivation of the student's behaviour, I would say that 90 to 95% of our student behaviour problems have been dissipated, and our statistics show that it is working. We are having fewer behaviour incidents, and I'm going to finish up with telling you one success story, and then I'll hand it to Dr. Sebele here. So we started this new system in August last year, and the students felt quite intimidated by it because it's harder. It's actually easier just to accept a consequence and not have to think about what you did. So there was some resistance. The students felt uncomfortable when I asked them, what were you thinking? Why did you do that? And they had to give me an answer. We didn't finish the conversation until these questions were answered. By October, I started to see students going through the process themselves. without needing to be sent to me. I'll give you one example, then I'll hand back. I saw a girl who had been in her sports class and had been frustrated about a decision the teacher had made, and who fought back with her teacher verbally. She argued with her teacher, and the teacher sent her to the edge of the classroom. What typically would have happened was the teacher would follow her, the argument would continue, and then I'd be called to come and get that student out of the situation to deliver the discipline. But as the student walked away, because we'd been through this conversation before, she processed. And by the time the teacher got to her, he was able to say, "This is what I was thinking. I understand now that I was disrespectful and I hurt you, and I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Can I have another chance?" And so we're still early, and there's always that 5% that are much harder than this, and we need to get deeper into. But on the whole, it's a safer environment for students to make mistakes, and that's the key. We all make mistakes. We're all humans. We make bad decisions. But with coaching, we're allowed to learn from those decisions, and it's changing our culture step by step.